Well, 4 years ago I wrote this music we called it Same River Twice, and it was a kind of confluence of influences, some Brazilian things, some jazz. And the whole idea was to try and challenge everyone on stage, so regardless of their background or their instrument, I really wanted them to be put in a situation where they were learning and increasing their kind of musical resource. We've come to revisit it now, 4 years on, and it's fantastic. Some of the same players are back, and a whole host of new ones, and it's really exciting to hear how not only the music has evolved, but their musicianship has evolved.
What's been very exciting for me is to see how our digital musicians have moved on in terms of their confidence in performing, their ability to improvise, and also play things like bass lines and be really kind of strong on the rhythm side of it. Before, the jazz players were more of a rhythm section, and then we were kind of more melody instruments. This time it's totally integrated and there's a lot of swapping around, so there's more equality.
This is definitely a more complex setup than you would normally have for a show. Usually you'd have things that would come out on stereo channels, whereas we have breakouts of 16 channels for every particular lap.
Each instrument that someone playing a laptop might play, and they can play up to 8, and we can treat that individually and make it sound good in the room. So that's it's a little bit different. And we have speakers on stage where the musicians are facing out. So that gives our electronic musicians a little bit of that particular stage presence.
Because it's all iPads and laptops and electric drum kits, and I've never worked with those sort of things, and all these different amazing sounds Digital Orchestra got, and just the approach to everything. I'd never done anything like this before.
We're using all sorts of instruments. We've got iPads, which are generally melody instruments and soloing. We've got 4 Nord keyboards playing synth sounds, which is part of the harmony and solo parts. We've got a digital drum kit, acoustic drum kit. We've got a sax and a trumpet. We have 3 laptop-based musicians as well who are playing using software, including Ableton Live. We've got Notion, we've got Logic, and all sorts of strange sounds coming from them. So one of the things we're using is Figurenotes notation. This is an example from the second piece, Delta Hendecker, and there's a really funky syncopated melody, and you can see the colours denote the pitch and the rhythm as well. So our synth players are playing using notation just like the jazz players, it's just in a different form.
Well, we had rehearsals in a church in Edinburgh, and we worked with the Digital Orchestra. So the first few rehearsals were sort of getting the parts created, and then the later rehearsals were sort of putting the thing all together.
Chris, who's really fallen in love with the bass, has got this amazing new set of sounds, and we just wrote a kind of James Jamerson type of bass line, and we just played it for the first time there, so that was very memorable. Yeah, man. That's fantastic.
I would say my favorite I was in there because I get to point the song Malcolm where I really get just Malcolm's piano skills.
Then Robertson Trust is really special for me because my melody is so nice.
My favourite bit is to play the one where it goes kind of jazzy, and then it goes, you play different kinds of keys, and you're like, ooh, you've done a great job, so that's great.
It was really great because I wrote this piece called Closer to Home, and it's a deconstruction of the Sky Boat song. And the whole idea is that you hear the notes and they start to be implanted in your ear, and a lot of audience members work it out, and some don't, and some are surprised when they find out what it was. And Erin, who's playing the piano, she came up to me this morning and said that her mum had always played her that song. She played it to her when she was born, and then Erin just quietly worked out the song on the piano. That was really lovely when we did that.
My favourite part is doing the Over to Sea to Sky piece, because it reminds me of like how much family and friends mean to me. I have learned that no matter how stressed you feel or whether you feel like you can't do it, basically you can, because the more you put into music, the more the audience is going to be like, okay, we can listen to this over and over, and it will inspire other people.
Yeah, we've worked really hard on making the piece sound great, because ultimately that's what we want to do, is produce brilliant music that just changes people's perceptions of maybe what some of our musicians are capable of, and we're setting high standards and hopefully meeting them.
My favourite thing is when we've spent all day fiddling with things and having chats and getting things ready, and then if I've done it right, I can pretty much get off stage and lead the musicians to it. So all that complexity is for that, for me. It's to paint myself out of the picture for performance time and just let them do their thing.
I think it's really good, because it's a sort of a collaboration between musicians who are professional musicians, young people who are coming up, and also the fact that they see how people with disabilities can use technology to play music equally as well as they can and be part of an orchestra, part of a band. And I just think that is a marvellous opportunity for everybody.
We have to prove to the audience that we can do anything that we want to do.
The whole idea of this piece comes from the quote by Heraclitus, which is, "No one steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and they are not the same person." And it is that idea that music changes, particularly improvised music and jazz music, where every time you play it, although you may have the same ideas, you may have the same structures and the same instruments, it's never going to be the same twice. And that's what's great about live music. So I think we will probably go ahead and play our music now. Starts with Closer to Home, which is a very beautiful, very complex chord pattern that grows into another structure. Then we've got Delta Hendecker, which is more like a kind of a bluesy, a lot of opportunities for solos. Starts with a bit of digital mayhem. Then we have, what's next? Oh, it's the new one which is called Same River Twice, which was largely inspired by the week we've had working in a wonderful church in Edinburgh. And every afternoon the sunlight would come in the stained glass windows, so there's a bit of a gospel feel. And it's very uplifting, very beautiful music based around the blue note, which is F. And then finally, the piece that we finished the concert with is Amazonia.
The encore is successful.
I think Drake Music Scotland has changed my life forever, because I just feel like I want to keep going. I don't want to stop. So
you don't want to give up either.
I don't want to give up either because I love music. Well, I think jazz music is very, very groovy and very moving.
Jazz, for me, jazz music is something that I'll listen to like forever. So
it's too wide to say. It builds her confidence. She loves it. She's very musical. It brings out the best in her. She meets people. She's made friends. She's actually become much more outgoing since being involved in Drake, and she's able to practice her skills, which she probably wouldn't get an opportunity anywhere else to do that.
They get absolutely everything out of the music that they do with Drake Music Scotland. Wonderful organisation. It gives young musicians with additional support needs the chance to do something after their school days are over, because there's a lot of activity while we're at school, especially with the help of Drake Music Scotland. And if Drake Music Scotland didn't continue with them afterwards, there would be nothing.
I really enjoyed doing it.